What's going on? What's going on? This is Instructor Mike. Let's give a little bit of a moment to come on. And I just want to discuss this picture right here. Okay. I think it's important to discuss it because Maj Toure I hope I'm saying his name right, Maj Toure of Black Guns Matter, had a chance to respond, and he reacted to a post that I made on my YouTube, on my Facebook page. Now, I want you all to understand something about me. Not that you care, right? If you do, you do. If you don't, you don't. If you follow me, good morning, Tim McDaniels, how are you? If you follow me, you already know that I am not divisive. And I try the best that I can not to be divisive. I try the best that I can to teach from a perspective of someone who has the experience that he does, that I do, while trying to remain humble, knowing that, one, I don't know everything, I won't know everything, and even though I'm an instructor, I remain a student. I remain a student. If I have another instructor whose class I attend, I don't walk in like I know everything. I shut up and I listen and I yield to the greater advice and the greater experience, right? Because the best of us instructors are still students of this profession, okay? And I do want to give a shout out to Maj Toure of Black Guns Matter because he's done a lot of great work, a lot of great work. Good morning, Christian Costley. But I was bothered by this picture. Not the way that he is holding the firearm. Not the way that he's holding the firearm. That's not what bothers me. I teach, ways like that too. That's not the issue, right? But this would be the second time that I ran into a post, not by Maj, by somebody else who was in his class and either posted a video or posted a picture or something because they loved the experience and they believed in what he was saying and they believed in what was, after all, that's why people, post things in our classes, right? But it's very, it's very much the case that we have to be careful of the optics of what's being said. So I'm going to go ahead and put up my post here so that you can know the context. Here we go. I said this: it is something of note when instructors fan the flames of racism to keep folks mad. George Floyd had nothing to do with concealed carry. Neither does Ahmaud Arbery. Philando Castile does. Maj does an excellent job of teaching in about 98% of his stuff, except this part. I'm not going to an instructor because he's popular. I'm going to an instructor because he's going to tell the truth or going to learn the truth, not his truth. And to think, the USCCA's name is right next to those pictures. No association should be next to those pictures. Do better. What pictures am I referring to? The pictures right behind Maj. You don't need to see a close-up to see that it's George Floyd in the middle right-hand corner. The second picture, you can't make out. The third picture is Ahmaud Arbery. Now, this is a white board. This is a white board. And in that, I could see if it was a slide where it was just something you were temporarily talking about and then you went on and moved on, right? But this is a whiteboard where those pictures appear to be affixed to. Now, let's go ahead and read Maj's response because he did, in fact, respond. Someone by the name of Johnny C on my Facebook page tagged him in it and said, well, did you reach out to Maj, right? And he responded, of course he didn't, LOL. Nothing in this class had anything to do what main man is talking about. They don't even know what class this is, who ran it, what city it's in, why those pictures are there, or any context. This is the second time homie attempted to use my name for energy incorrectly. Never even had a conversation with this man. so he can't possibly know what was said in this class. He's just pushing his narrative for whatever reason, and he's allowed to. Said it himself. I do a great job in 98% except the part he disagrees on. But how can you disagree if you don't even know what was said? You can't. Context is key, and it is so much missing from this pick. For example, why am I even holding the SIRT pistol in such a weird-ass angle? That could be said that I'm teaching students how to shoot that way. It would be wrong. But that's what this pick looks like. Context is needed. Homie is talking about fan the flames of racism, close quote, not knowing that in class we went over how perception based on media bias can make you look at a shooting the wrong way a lot. Media has an agenda, and it's not you being a safe and responsible gun owner. It's to scare you into victim mentality, a lot of times based on race. But again, the people in the comments section and the guy posting it would know that if they asked instead of just talking out of their ass. It's hilarious. Anyway, though, I hope everyone is getting solid instruction from whatever instructors they choose. Y'all be safe. Well, let's talk about it. That's very funny that he managed to say that, given that if you look at this whiteboard, you have the word in the upper middle, de-escalate, and then you have those pictures in the middle right side. You can't use the words de-escalate and then use those pictures of George Floyd, the second picture I don't know, the third picture Ahmaud Arbery, and then expect people to de-escalate when those pictures incite. Those pictures, people feel some kind of way about George Floyd's death. People feel some kind of way about Ahmaud Arbery's death, regardless of what side you're on. They feel some kind of way. And when you're talking about de-escalate by the words, and then the pictures, which is the antithesis of de-escalation, you have a problem. But there could be some context behind what he's saying, given that he stated that I used his name twice. So let's mention the first time. There was a YouTube video that I created about the Philando Castro situation where he was recorded by one of his students in class. And this is what he had to say.
Okay, what decision am I going to have to make? Is it going to be me or the police officer, because I don't know, why he's putting...
So it's two things. And then, so one, knowing the rules. Now let me blow everybody's mind. Philando Castile should be allowed. Not because of Yanez, the officer or ex-officer. Minnesota is not a duty to notify state. Meaning, he had no legal reason or obligation to even, now was he trying to do what he thought was the right thing?
Yes.
Yep, 100%. But he ran into a marshmallow that was scared. I don't even think it was racial. I don't. I think he's a bitch, and he heard the word gun. He's an officer. He probably qualified once a year. He's used to people doing it. He got nervous and whatever, right? Cops never get fired. He got fired. The police union usually is like, you're not firing our guy, right? Now, why am I saying this? I wish I could have jumped into Castile's body and said, hey, you do know Minneapolis, Minnesota, St. Paul is not a duty to notify city and or state, right? Hey, what's up? I can pull up all the time. I got Draco in the truck. I got Glock in my waistband. I got a lot of guns. And when I get pulled over, I know if the state is a duty to notify state. Hey, what's up, man? How you doing, officer? How would you like me to proceed after everything? Hey, yeah. My license and registration's in my back right pocket. It's in my wallet. How would you like me to proceed? Oh man, you can go ahead and get it. Hey, okay, cool, officer. Does your partner on the passenger side know that? You mind if I lean over to him or her real quick and let them know? Because they, standing outside the car, may not hear our exchange, right? Then it becomes, hey man, your partner over here let me know that I'm just getting my wallet. That's cool? How would you like me to proceed? Giving people a perceived position of power. The reality is I probably train more than them. And I can shoot from inside the car. However, I would prefer not to. Right? Now the conversation becomes, well, I shouldn't have to do that. I should be with Rihanna right now somewhere trying. Sorry, this is the boat that we're in right now.
So let's talk about it. Now I want you to understand something. I don't have a beef with the brother. I don't care what people may try to say. But as General Colin Powell said it best, avoid having your ego so closely connected to the position that when your position falls, your ego falls with it. Avoid having your position so closely connected to your ego that when your position falls, your ego falls with it. I want you to understand that in the beginning of that video, he said Philando Castile should be alive. He is exactly correct. He is correct. He should be alive. But when he stated Minnesota has no duty to notify, that is incorrect. Minnesota has a duty to notify. It's a conditional duty, just like Illinois. 1, when you are asked by the law enforcement officer, do you have a firearm? You are to then let them know that you have a firearm and that you are licensed. That's a conditional duty to notify. And I appreciate you too, Steve Thompson. Secondly, or thirdly, he said that he had no legal reason to state that he had a gun. And that is correct. But I want you to understand this. Firearms instructor, in the context of where we are as instructors, you have to have some level of knowledge regarding police procedure, some level of knowledge regarding what happens and why things occur the way they do. If you don't have the experience commensurate with the advice that you are trying to give, do not give it. There is a statement, I'd rather be silent and be thought of as a fool than to speak out and remove all doubt. He said he had no legal reason. Yes, that's correct. But it's a conditional duty to notify. And this is why, having been a police officer, I tell people that you should let them know ahead of time that you have a firearm. I will tell you this. I have always appreciated when someone sat there on a traffic stop and they said to me, hey, I got my firearm. It's in such and such place, such and such place. I appreciate that. You put me on notice. In fact, you bought yourself some credit by saying those things. I can appreciate that. But then I got offended, having been a police officer, because you said he ran into a marshmallow. Now, he said, I don't think it was about race. But then you said he ran into a marshmallow. He was scared. A little bitch. Probably one of those ones that qualified a year or once a year, and then he heard the word gun and got nervous. If you were a police officer, or at least if you would have gotten the experience of what police officers actually do, you would learn in training circles, you don't use the word gun because gun, here we go, gun. Gun is a trigger word in police training circles. So you don't train your students to use the word gun. And I get it. There are plenty of instructors out there who have probably never been the police, but at least they understand. You don't have to be a doctor with cancer to understand the effects of what cancer can do to then advise your patients to do things that could avoid what causes cancer. Right? So you need to go out there and get some more experience. You said he was scared. A marshmallow. A bitch. Isn't that a percentage of the students Isn't that a percentage of the students we teach? Don't we teach marshmallows? Don't we teach people who are scared? After all, that feeling of fear is the impetus why some people come to us. Sorry about that. That feeling of fear is the impetus why some people come to us, because they're scared, because they're afraid. Now, was it Mahanan Alamar? No one care about. Okay, whatever. That's fine. Moving on. Not gonna worry about that comment. You got to come in here and be respectful. If you're not coming in here and being respectful in the comments, don't get me wrong. I don't mind disagreeing opinions. I don't mind opinions that spark debate. But you're not going to come here and disrespect the decorum of the lesson. Just like in class, I'll eject you. It's just that simple. Okay? Now, continuing on. He said cops never get fired. That's not true. Cops get fired all the time. And yeah, absolutely. I have never thought about gun being a trigger word. I totally understand now. Absolutely. Gun. Why is gun a trigger word? It's one syllable. It's powerful. And it's something that could cause immediate reaction. When you're talking about the brain and what you should not do in a stressful situation, you don't want to start. That's why we always instruct people to give commands. Let me call you right back, okay? All right. Had to answer that call as she called the first time. We always tell people to give commands no more than 3 words. Why? Because of how the brain works. If you're a firearms instructor, you must understand that firearms instruction, the profession of firearms instruction, okay? The profession of firearms instruction is more than just a certificate. It's a science. You need to understand psychology. You need to understand physiology. You need to understand certain aspects of human performance under stress. You need to understand physics in terms of how the firearm moves, the mechanics, how people learn, the instincts of what they've done all throughout their life that could be barriers to your training efforts. You need to understand all of that, which means that you need to go beyond the basic classes from the NRA, beyond the basic classes from USCCA, beyond the basic classes of NAGA. They have a new instructor program. Beyond the basic classes, that certification is just a platform. You got to build on top of that. But you got to understand that too. And when you're talking about certain things level to, that experience, when we're sitting here talking about people being scared and what they would do under stress, you got to understand that, because that's where you're teaching from. Those are the people that you're teaching. When you understand certain things like the word gun and how you should not use multiple statements. Sir, please get back. If you don't do that, I will shoot. When you start saying all of that, your brain has taken itself from that task you may need to perform under stress to paying attention to the speech that you are giving, because the brain has to make sure that while you are actively speaking, that your speech stays within the context of what you are saying, given the situation that you are reacting to. You are then taking yourself away from the thing you may have to do, and you are concentrating on the speech that you are trying to say. The brain can't do 2 major things at the same time, especially if you don't do those 2 major things under stress. You can walk and chew bubble gum, but some people can't. Can you pat your head and rub your stomach while talking and then assessing a threat? It's called divided attention. You can't, you see what I'm saying? This is why during DUI tests, if you got that police experience, this is why we do divided attention tests, because of what the brain can or cannot do under the influence of alcohol. You need to understand those things. So when you're talking about Philando Castile ran into a scared marshmallow who was a bitch, probably qualified once a year. You know how many people don't go to the range at all? Those are your students that you're teaching. How many of them would just go to the range once out of the year, if at all? Here we go. Cops never get fired. That's not true at all. Cops get fired all the time. If you would be with cops, you would understand that. Why do cops get fired? Cops get fired because of politics. And then you said he got fired. So what you're doing is you're trying to establish a correlation between the termination of his employment and the guilt innocence phase of a criminal trial, when the standards to be terminated may be based on something that is not the proof beyond a reasonable standard that is required by the courts, the impartiality that's required by the courts, the detached and neutral magistrate that's required by the courts. You have to understand that. When you place yourself out there as a firearms instructor, these people who may not know the law, they are going to lean to you for your advice regarding these situations, because these are the situations that affect them. Now, had you had a picture of Kenneth Walker up there, and I'll show you what we're talking about, right? If you had a picture of Kenneth Walker up there in the Breonna Taylor case, that would have been a proper picture to put up there. Why? In the Breonna Taylor case, Kenneth Walker did the right thing by shooting at persons he believed to be home invaders. He believed them to be home invaders. That's why he was falsely arrested, but later released of those charges with prejudice. Why? Because a jury, when convinced by a qualified and able defense attorney, would have been able to easily establish that anyone in the state of Kentucky who was standing their ground, who heard a knock at the door, and then the door suddenly busted open without any notification that it's the police, they would have fired shots too. And so because of that, they didn't know they were the police. So any person in that position would have fired their pistol too. That's why he must be released. And that's why he was. If you put that picture up there, you'll be justified in that. It's concealed carry related. And people will ask the question, well, why did Breonna Taylor get shot? Well, that's what happens in shooting situations. Shots are fired. Shots are returned. People get hit. Then there's the intent. But then you sit here and you continue. And then you begin to rely on your motor vehicle operator experience. And then you begin to say you ride around with, I'm gonna play the video again, so hang tight. You can listen to it yourself. You relied on your motor vehicle operator experience, that you ride around with guns and that you get stopped all the time. And then you ask the officers, how would you like me to proceed? Perfect. Wonderful. But then you begin to mess up. Ow! I can't make this up. Then you begin to mess up and you begin to talk with your hands to your students. You begin to take your finger and point it to your wallet. You begin to lean over in the car and begin to explain to the officers on the other side who you are and your status as Maj Toure. That doesn't matter who you are. At the end of the day, the officer said don't reach. So let's just say the officer is a punk bitch, as you so wrongfully stated. If this punk bitch sat there and told you don't reach, and that's the trigger that could cause things to go wrong, don't then explain why you're reaching, just don't reach. If a rattlesnake is shaking its rattle, it doesn't have the ability to speak your language, but it's speaking in a language that hopefully you can hear, which is the sound, the rattle. It's up to you to pay attention. If you don't pay attention to that rattle and that rattlesnake strikes you, well, that's the end of the game. You didn't pay attention. If a cat shows its teeth and backs up against the corner, and then you continue in and the cat scratches you and bites you, well, that's your ass. If the dog shows you its teeth, it's not smiling. It's communicating it's about to attack. You need to pay attention to those signals. And that's why it's important for instructors to know the cause and effect of what you're teaching. You're teaching people to, officer, can I move slowly to my wallet? Just because you move slowly doesn't mean you can't come out faster with that gun. Just because you move slowly doesn't mean that my fear of losing my life is going to go down. But you would know that if your education and experience was commensurate with the advice that you're giving. I do not hate you, Maj Toure. I think that what you are doing is a wonderful job. A wonderful job. All gun control is racist, and black guns do matter. But avoid having your ego so closely connected to your position that when your position falls, your ego falls with it. And that's not my quote. That's the quote of General Colin Powell in his rules, his 13 rules that he wrote in the 90s. Give advice. If people don't listen, let adversity teach them. You can have good intentions and give bad advice. Just like when you posted this picture, or not posted, he didn't post that in fairness. He didn't post that, but someone sat there and put this picture up here. And you got those pictures up there, posted. You're teaching one thing, but those pictures incite things in the minds of your students. What if I sat there in my classes and played Roots and then said, not all white people are racist? Yes, that is true. But guess what? They're not trying to hear that. That frame of mind that they are in at that time, you have inflamed them and you have taken them from the prefrontal cortex, which is logic, reasoning, and the ability to be able to understand. And you have put them in the amygdala, which is the part of the brain that controls fight, flight, freeze, and emotions. They are not thinking rationally. They are thinking and acting emotionally. More so acting emotionally than thinking. You are correct, Deborah. It is up to you to understand the situation you are in. You cannot expect others to communicate in a clear manner. But Deborah, and I appreciate you as always, I will tell you this. As an instructor, that ain't gonna fly. That ain't gonna fly. Especially for the people. And I'm talking about black folks. Why? Because the truth be told, my friends, we are behind the curve. Behind the curve, either way. You know what it's said, the saying. We are behind the curve when it comes down to this gun thing. I am happy that black folks are starting to do what they need to do to protect themselves. No one knows more than me, right? I ain't gonna say no one knows more than me. That's not fair. But I definitely know the impact of what happens when we teach, because I've taught thousands of people in law enforcement. Sometimes I taught a little bit in the military on firearm and non-firearm related courses, but definitely as a civilian in law enforcement and in security and in the civilian populace. I have been blessed with the platform that I have, and I stay humble and remain humble. Again, shouts out to the Chicago Tribune, who featured me, the 761st Gun Club, Chicago Guns Matter founder and president, Rhonda Ezell, one of the litigants in that case that was very central to Chicagoans being able to protect themselves. Even they recognize more gun owners are black. More gun owners are black and starting to do what we should have been doing long ago. And see, that becomes another problem too. You folks down south, you black folks down south, don't understand that you've been benefiting from certain things such as your ability to be able to carry for a long time. Yes, you've gone through some horrible racist stuff, and in certain cases you still do. And I am not unaware of that. But those of us up here in the Midwest and in the North, especially in Illinois, we were the last state in the union to be granted the ability to be able to carry and protect ourselves. So when we talk about certain things, you got to give the people the right advice. You got to understand how people learn, especially how we learn. For if you are a credentialized and experienced instructor, you understand that we are at a learning curve. Not that we're not smart, not that we don't have the ability to learn, but we're at a learning curve. And to think, among this crowd of people you taught, therein could have been a young person who wanted to be a police officer. Therein could have been a young person who wanted, a young black person who wanted to be a police officer, who wanted to answer the call, to swear an oath, to uphold the Constitution of the United States and the laws of that given state against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and to support the Constitution and protect their community. And here you are calling one of the officers who answered the call a marshmallow, a scared bitch who qualified only once a year, heard the word gun and got nervous. You know how many rookie cops I've trained who fit that description except the bitch part? The nerve of you, never having served in that occupation, to then fix your mouth to speak upon a profession that if you were in trouble, you would call. But say less of Mike Brown. Let's hear it out of his mouth himself.
Okay, what decision am I gonna have to make? Is it gonna be me or the police officer, because I don't know, why he's putting.
So it's two things, and then so one, knowing the rules. Now let me blow everybody's mind. Philando Castile should be allowed, not because of Yanez, the officer or ex-officer. Minnesota is not a duty to notify state. Meaning, he had no legal reason or obligation to even, now was he trying to do what he thought was the right thing?
Yes.
Yep, 100%. But he ran into a marshmallow that was scared. I don't even think it was racial. I don't. I think he's a bitch. And he heard the word gun. He's an officer. He probably qualified once a year. He's used to people doing it. He got nervous and whatever. Right? Cops never get fired. He got fired. The police union usually is like, you're not firing our guy. Right? Now, why am I saying this? I wish I could have jumped into Castile's body and said, hey, you do know Minneapolis, Minnesota, St. Paul is not a duty to notify city and or state, right? Hey, what's up? I get pulled over all the time. I got Draco in the truck. I got Glock in my waistband. I got a lot of guns. And when I get pulled over, I know if the state is a duty to notify state. Hey, what's up, man? How you doing, officer? How would you like me to proceed after everything? Hey, yeah, my license and registration is in my back right pocket. It's in my wallet. How would you like me to proceed? Oh, man, you can go ahead and get it. Hey, okay, cool, officer. Does your partner on the passenger side know that? You mind if I lean over to him or her real quick and let them know? Because they, standing outside the car, may not hear our exchange. Right? Then it becomes, hey, man, your partner over here let me know that I'm just getting my wallet. That's cool? How would you like me to proceed? Giving people a perceived position of power. The reality is I probably train more than them. And I can shoot from inside a car. However, I would prefer not to. Right? Now the conversation becomes, well, I shouldn't have to do that. I should be with Rihanna right now somewhere trying. Sorry, this is the boat that we're in right now.
So, I'm saying all that to say this. You've heard it out of his mouth yourself. And so then you wonder why I believe that this picture fans the flames of racism. If a picture is worth 1,000 words, then what about a picture in a picture that's worth even more? Within the context of this picture, you could have been teaching wonderfully about how to use a firearm in the manner that you are doing, which I believe you to have been doing. But then when you have the constant images of the things that affect some of the students in your crowd, you are distracting them from the very good teaching, the great teaching that you could be giving. George Floyd had nothing to do with concealed carry. No firearm was used in that manner. Ahmaud Arbery had a situation where a firearm was used, but there are other lessons you could teach out of that. Just imagine if I had pictures of the KKK, pictures of black folks in slave change, pictures of black folks getting whooped and lynched and flogged and beaten. But then I'm talking about concealed carry. Come on, man. Come on, man. That incenses them. It's a distraction, and it fans the flames of racism. It fans the flames of racism. Ronald Glover, 72, said, I just had about 15 officers fined here in Atlanta who said I was doing right. Oh, fired. I don't know what you... Oh, I'm sorry. I just had about 15 officers fired here in Atlanta who said I was doing right. I don't know. I might have misread your stuff. I'm sorry. I apologize about that. Let me read it right. Just had about 15 officers fired here in Atlanta who were, I say, doing right. Absolutely. When you say officers don't get fired, that's not true. Cops get fired all the time for doing the right thing. I said it a long time ago before I even had a platform. And there are people who've known me long before I have what I have now who will say, Mike did say this. They're not going to be able to attack the cops directly. Cops can take bullshit, but they're going to get to the politicians, and then the politicians are going to get to the cops. And that's exactly what you have now. And this ain't something a Mike Brown exclusive. You just got to have eyes and ears and pay attention to those facts. Instructors, you have a duty and a responsibility to understand what you are teaching people. Don't be like this guy.
Friends outdoor.
Hey, we have Friends Outdoor with this lovely family. I want to let y'all know this is the way to go. Train your youngins early. Make sure you guys out here representing the Second Amendment the best way possible. I love it.
Not even paying attention to where that firearm is pointed. Not even paying attention to the fact that the person's, this young lady's trigger finger is inside the trigger well. The trigger guard, sorry. Where that finger is right near the trigger. And people are actively on the range shooting. One big pop, one big startle. She could put her finger easily on the trigger and blow that little girl's head off. Instructors, yes, we do certain things to make sure that our students are to be safe and that we are teaching the right thing. But when you are wrong, avoid having your ego so closely connected to your position that when someone checks you, you attack your ego to it and you begin to attack that person. I am saying what I say out of love, not out of hate. I am saying what I say because I really care, not because I hate you. If I couldn't stand you, I'd let you mess up your own stuff. But we have a duty and a responsibility to have each other's back. And if you put that stuff out there publicly, then or you allow people to record and put that stuff out there publicly, then you should be bold enough to allow yourself to get chastised publicly. You are responsible. Just like the Sergeant Major of the 10th Mountain Division got on his troops for that bad video. That video where they were doing room entry and people were getting flagged by soldiers who were not paying attention. Did he attack the person who brought it to light? No. What did he do? Got on their troops. And now they're probably going through more training than you could possibly ever fathom. Don't attack the person who's bold enough to bring it up to you. Do better. Do better. That's all I'm saying. It's simple. I love you. I love you. I don't care what race you are. We're the human race. Yes, certain people are treated differently, but just like a spade game, you play the cards you're dealt. How you feel about it, you're entitled. But play the cards you're dealt. But you have to learn the game, the pitfalls. This is chess, not checkers. You need to be able to foresee some things. You cannot teach the people wrong and then sit there and when they fall to your bad advice, oh well. You teach the people when they're using their hands on a traffic stop that's the thing to do. No, you don't do that. You don't use your hands. You put your hands on 11 right here with your palms facing them. Why? Because your instructor, who is certified or was certified as a police officer with experience commensurate with that advice, they told you that you put your hands here. You put your hands here. You put your hands here because the angle of approach, when you roll down that window, the officer will see your palms before they ever see your body. So even if you have a gun on you, they know you don't have it in your hands. It's called transactional reciprocal empathy. Transactional reciprocal empathy. We both want something out of this. We both want to survive. We both want to go home to our families. You may hate me, I may hate you, which that should not even be the case. But regardless of how you feel, we both want something out of this. Use that. Put my hands here. Say it with me. When the hands disappear, it accelerates the fear. What did I come out with? You didn't know. Could you react fast? You didn't. Could you react fast? You didn't know. I'm telling you, teach the people well. So given the video and what you said in this video, your words, not mine, you see why I am of the opinion that you might be fanning the flames of racism? Because you did it in that video. If you did it in that video, as Maya Angelou said, God rest her soul, when someone shows you who they are, believe them. You showed us in this video that those could be your opinions. And so, I believed you. Maj Toure, shouts out to you, my brother. You're doing a great job. And you don't need my shout out. But shouts out to you anyway. You keep pushing, because black guns do matter. But so does teaching the people the right way. Avoid having your ego so closely connected to your position that when it falls, your ego falls with it. Keep teaching the people, but get more experience so you can have more knowledge so that the message that you give is so much greater. I'm on the team with you, 10 toes down, but you were wrong. This is Instructor Mike, and you've been trained. I wish I could say it any better. I wish I could. What are your thoughts? Comment, like, subscribe, all that stuff. Follow me on Facebook at Mike Brown or Instructor Mike. Follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Yes Mike Said It. And subscribe to this YouTube page, Instructor Mike. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the bell for notifications. In the effort to try to heal the wounds, of childhood trauma, I've written a set of children's books. You can go to Amazon, look them up under the name What I Tell Myself First, and look at the books in the series that I've written. If you want the sets, I can mail them to you. Just reach out to me. Okay? They're even on online. You can download the Vimo app. Okay? You can always download the Vimo app. Just go on ahead and put in the search engine What I Tell Myself, the book series. Okay. Here we go. I appreciate that, Deborah. I really do. What I Tell Myself, the book series, and it will come up and you can get the videos. And if you enter the code Kids Self Help, you can watch the videos that I do have, and I will be posting them up there as we create more. They are coming out, things like that. Okay. And just feel free. They're free. They're free. Let's start to break the cycle of the generational curses that keep us in the positions that we've been in. We got to change it. We got to change it. Until then,